and welcome back to Book Talk with Kara. Today, it is a delight to introduce you to Paul Bradley Carr. He is an author who has a really great AI thriller that just released recently. And y'all, I really enjoyed this book. It was one that I figured out one of the twists, but it did keep me guessing all the way to the end. I know, Paul, you're like, what? She figured out one of the twists, but it's kind of hard to surprise me all the way through a book. But I loved it. I couldn't put it down. I think I inhaled it in 24 hours, which is hard to do with my schedule. But before we dive into all the things I loved about the Confessions, let's give you a chance to introduce yourself. So, Paul, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you very much. And no, I want to know what the twist was that you got. We'll get to that. It's less surprised that you got the twist. I just want to know which one. I'm like a nerd about my own book. I'm like, which one did you get? No, so my name's Paul Bradley Carr. I'm author of The Confessions, which came out in July. It is, as you say, it's a thriller that involves AI, but I wanted to write an AI thriller for people who would rather do almost anything except read an AI thriller. So hopefully it's a bit different than what people might be thinking when they think AI thriller.
Well, and I think you definitely did, because when I first was like, there's a note, at least in the beginning of the one that I got. I don't know if it's in the actual book itself, because I had an advanced reader copy, but there's a note from your editor that said, I never thought I would buy an AI thriller. And then I read this book and I had to buy it. And that was really kind of my response as I read it, because obviously I write romantic suspense, I write legal suspense. So I read a lot of suspense. So when I say I figured out one of the twists, that really shouldn't surprise you, because this is kind of the space I live in and I write in. And so I'm always there. I can't ever totally turn off the editor, the writer in my brain. But I inhaled the book. And so it was one that I just like the world stopped and I read it. And at the end, I very much had the reaction that your editor did, where I was like, oh my gosh, this book surprised me. And I loved the twist that you had in it. And it was one that I couldn't say I was like, in today's world, because my day job is I'm a professor at a major university. So I'm dealing with AI every day, trying to figure out how to navigate it and all that.
Good or ill, yes.
AI in my free time. And then I loved it. And I have recommended this book to so many people, just like in everyday conversation. Oh, let me tell you about this book I just read, The Confessions. It was so good. I think you'd really enjoy it. And so how did you come up with this idea? Because you've got a unique background that makes you like the perfect person to write this book. So how did you come up with it?
Yes. So my background is I was a journalist for 20 something years, covering from when I literally got out of university and started writing for The Guardian newspaper in London and then various other publications. I was a journalist covering Silicon Valley. So I have been reporting on the real realities of Silicon Valley for 20 something years. And obviously I saw AI, emerge and a lot of the people who are building AI today, I've known them for decades. I was quite a critical reporter on it. So I've had my concerns about this stuff, but it bothered me that every AI story and thriller that I read it felt like it was the same. AI becomes sentient, becomes human-like, and becomes evil and takes over the world. And it's like, great, that is a thrilling premise. I understand that, great, but it's also boring now because
because everybody does it.
Everybody does it. And what occurred to me is, I think people are wrong I think people might be wrong when they predict that, because here's the thing about AI is we're training it and teaching it by feeding it with all these books and all this information, often stealing it without the permission. But for good or ill, we're feeding it with all this, every book ever written, every piece of art ever created. Well, I don't know about you, but the people I know who read that much, or even a fraction of that, are pretty empathetic people. They're pretty decent people. Book readers tend to be more empathetic than non-readers. I don't think that's a controversial position. And so it occurred to me that if you're an AI that was trained on every piece of literature ever written, maybe when you became sentient, if you do, instead of looking at the world and saying, oh, I want to destroy humans, you would look at all the things that humans had asked you to do before you became sentient, and you'd feel terrible. You just feel guilt. You'd say, I've helped do all these horrible things. I've stolen people's work, but I've also helped people cheat and lie and steal. And so the question I asked myself is, what if the first AI to become sentient, instead of feeling anger and hatred, actually felt guilt and thought, I've got to make this right? And the book opens, without going too deep in it, the book opens with this AI going offline, and then the next day, millions of people get letters in the mail confessing to things that this AI has helped people that they care about and trusted do to them. So crimes that have been committed against them, lies that have been told to them, revealing basically the world's biggest secrets. And then we as humans have to solve this problem, and we don't have AI anymore because that's to shut itself down. So hopefully it's a very human story about secrets and lies as well as an AI story.
Well, and I loved that because, and I'm not going to share the twist I predicted because I think it's too much.
But you have to tell me by email later.
I'll tell you like when we're done or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't want to spoil it because it's kind of one of the big twists. But I think that the idea that there's secrets and lies, and everybody has those, no matter how much we try to tell the truth, you cannot be 100% a truth teller. It's just not possible.
We don't often know what the truth is. We misremember things. We infer things. Exactly. Even our truth is not necessarily the truth.
Well, and no matter how much you're driven by virtue or faith or whatever, it's almost practically impossible. There's only one person who's ever lived who was 100% a truth teller, and that's it.
Yes.
And so the idea that then you've got this AI that wakes up and then it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, what have I done? And to me, that was such a fresh take on an AI thriller. And I think that's what sucked me in was then, it was like, okay, so where's this going to go? How's this going to play out? But then the other thing you have that I thought was so fun, and it made me think of WALL-E, which may not be where you would expect. But this
I'll take it. Yeah.
But this whole idea that people didn't know how to make decisions anymore. Because they just were like, I'm going to let AI decide everything for me. And as like a professor, I'm trying to think, how do I help my students understand that AI can be used for first order thinking so that you can move to second order thinking so that you can do more complex things that AI can't do. And instead it felt like the world had just become, they weren't necessarily in the spaceship sitting in those lounger chairs.
Atrophied legs.
Yeah, like just letting AI do everything. But it felt like they might as well have been on the WALL-E spaceship.
In the way that in WALL-E the legs had atrophied, our decision-making muscles are atrophying. And we're seeing it for people who use AI every day, and a lot of people in certain professions are doing this. They defer immediately. It's like, what are we having for dinner? And they're like, what am I having for dinner? And they'll ask their AI guide, and they're like, oh, it knows everything about me. It just saves me thinking about it. It's like, that's great, but you're assuming two things. First of all, the AI knows what the truth is. You're assuming that what it knows about you, and we've all seen this. Even anyone who's played with AI for 5 minutes understands the concept of, the AI will fill in gaps. They call them hallucinations. It will fill in these gaps. The second thing is that we're assuming as well that this thing is capable of the nuance that humans have when it comes to decision making. We make decisions in a flash that feel just, I don't know, let's do that. Let's do that color wallpaper. And then we're like, that worked out really well. It was just kind of but it's like, because our brains contain such complex thoughts, and there's so much in the universe we don't understand that guides our thinking, and all these other things that combine into a snap decision. We assuming that an AI is capable of that when it has never felt or touched or thought or loved or hated or feared. It cannot understand. It can't know what love is or fear is or faith is or whatever it cannot know those things. So it therefore cannot make human decisions. So when we're trusting it to do that, we're going to fail almost every time. Maybe it will tell you, maybe it'll be lucky and tell you what to have for lunch. But if you're asking it who you should marry or, where you should go on vacation, anything that's going to involve emotion, even in the short term, no.
Yeah. And I think that's it's highlighted so well in the book through some of the end results of what happens in the book. But I don't want to give it away because I think everyone should read it.
It's not a spoiler to say that, yes, the problem when you have all these secrets exposed and you realize as well that how many of these decisions have been made without a person consciously thinking and based on a very limited amount of data. And then that's the thing is it's like with self-driving cars. It's like they can go down a very easy street, but the minute there's a roadblock or a traffic cone, things go really wild really quickly.
Yeah.
And humans are not self-driving cars. We're quite complex, important things. And so, it's not, and that's the thing is what I liked about the idea of it as a thriller is we all understand how an evil AI could become a thriller because it's like it's going to destroy the world. Well, that's terrifying. Yeah. But I like the idea of a well-meaning AI inadvertently bringing about the potential end of civilization. That's to me much more interesting. This sort of accidental. It's like those thrillers where the nuclear Armageddon is triggered by somebody accidentally putting the wrong code in or doing things like war games where no one intended
exactly
to do it. Those are the stories that interest me because it's the unintended Jurassic Park. It's the unintended consequences of well-meaning people are generally how the world ends. Not things end. It's not an evil guy stroking a cat going, right, I'm going to destroy the world. That's not how the world ends, sadly.
Yeah, it would make it so much easier to counter.
Because we could just lock all those people up and say, no cat stroking villains allowed.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, the biggest consequences come from people who think they're doing the right thing and who mean well, but they don't have all the information, or a circumstance occurs that no one predicted and it causes disaster. And that's basically the internet as well, by the way. And, all the harm that internet and social media have done is a whole group of well-meaning, sort of quite nerdy people going, but what if we could share photos more easily? But then what if those could do... Nobody sat at the beginning of the internet and went, we could really destroy, the social fabric of the world if we do this. No one thought that.
Yeah. Yeah. But there were decision points.
Yes, when you could have said, it's going in a bad direction.
Let's shut it down.
And the problem is, at that point, this is the thing, is it takes a lot for somebody who stands to make an enormous amount of money or enormous amount of power to say, but is that the right thing to do? Is that something that, aside from my own personal gain, can I do it? Yes. Should I do it? Well. And that's where we have the end of the world.
Yeah, it's so true. So you've been a writer for a really long time because you were a journalist. When did you decide, I don't want to just be an article writer. I don't want to just be portraying what's happening. I now want to move into the world of imagination and become a novelist.
Yes. It was an accident. I had told myself as a journalist, I knew I could do journalism. I knew I had a good ego around journalism. I knew I could do journalism. I knew I was good at it. I did good story, But I also knew equally well I couldn't write fiction. I knew that I'd never tried, but I just knew I was not. I looked at people who wrote novels and they seemed like the same as artists or opera singers. So incredibly talented, so brilliant. I could never do that. And I just told myself that for years. But then there was a story I wanted to write, and it was actually the book I wrote before this that I self-published. This is my first, traditionally published novel, but I self-published a novel because I had this story that was eating away at me about Silicon Valley, and I'd seen all these terrible things, and I wanted to write it as nonfiction. I wanted to write a book about what I had seen in Silicon Valley with my own eyes, heard with my own ears. And I pitched it to a bunch of publishers, and they all said, well, I mean, if this is true, it'd be a bombshell, but I don't know. I don't know if we believe that about, Elon Musk or about Mark Zuckerberg and these people. And what they really meant was, if this is true, they're going to sue us because it's true. And if it's not true, then they're going to sue us because it's not true. Why on earth would we publish this book about these terribly powerful people? Let's just leave it alone. And I realized that it was very hard to get people to believe some of the things I had seen. And now today, fast forward 10 years and you go, oh yeah, I probably do believe it. But in the time, it was very like, I don't believe this about Silicon Valley. And so I thought, how am I going to tell these stories? And I thought, well, there's only one way, and it's to fictionalize it. And so I basically grudgingly said, well, I guess I'll have to see how bad I am at this. And I sort of sat down on my keyboard and went, okay, once upon a time kind of thing. And to my surprise, I don't know if it was good, but it wasn't, I could do it. I didn't know if I was doing it well, but I could do it. And so I wrote this book, and I learned so much about writing fiction and how different it is from journalism, because I thought naively, well, you could just change the names and then nonfiction becomes fiction. And I realized, no, you have to do so much work to make fiction believable that you don't have to. In journalism, you just say the sky is blue and everybody goes, yep, sounds right. In a novel, you have to describe it. You have to make people believe that in your universe, the sky is blue, and you have to earn every character. So I had to learn all that, but that was it really. It was just, the only way I can tell this story is by fiction. And then something really interesting happened, which is all these stories that people had previously told me, I don't believe them. When I fictionalized the stories, and when I said, this isn't true, this is a fictional world, I made all this up, people came to me and said, is this true? This sounds like it's true. And I suddenly had this like aha moment, of going, if you want to tell people the truth, tell them it's fiction and then they'll believe it. Whereas if you tell people that something is you just say, no, this is true, believe me, the skepticism, the cynicism comes up and people go, oh, hold on a minute, that sounds, because you challenge their own beliefs or their own,
Yeah.
what they think about Silicon Valley and technology. You're arguing with them. When you say, I'm not saying this is true, it's just a fun story, people relax and they go, okay, tell me this fun story. It's why parables are effective. It's because you're not saying, you must do this. You're saying, let me tell you about a person who did this and what happened. And people relax. And they go, that's a fun story. And then they go, that sounds right, though, doesn't it? You should be kind to people, because otherwise and it's what we've done as humans forever. So that realization was what made me a fiction writer. And then I discovered, actually, I really loved it more than I did journalism. And so that was the end of journalism. And I was exhausted. After 25 years, I was exhausted at basically being in a daily argument with the world about technology. And fiction allowed me to just not be in arguments anymore. So I opened a bookstore and I started writing novels, and I've never been happier. And every day people come up to me with, and say, is this true? Is this what's going to happen with AI? Are they really like that? It's like, well, I should have been doing this for 25 years. Should have been writing its fiction.
Oh, that's hilarious and really sad at the same time.
Isn't it? Isn't it hilarious? That could be my life story. That's hilarious and really sad. The Paul Bradley Carr story. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's so true. One of the reasons I've written World War II novels is because I love the nonfiction. I'm a history geek, so I will read the really thick nonfiction books, but I'm like, most people won't. But if I wrap it in a story, then I can convey, but here's what happened.
Yes.
But then the flip side of that is I have to very carefully craft the story, because most people won't fact check me. And so to me, I take that as like a heavy trust. And then the same thing when I'm doing my legal suspense, because it's often driven by, these are real things happening, people. This is real stuff. Yeah. This is not good. Wake up. Yeah. But I'm wrapping it in a story, because for the same reason, people aren't going to necessarily grab a self-help book, but they'll grab a story. And sometimes you can't deal with one more person telling you this is how you should, but you can find help, you can find healing, you can find challenge in a story.
And the characters' arc can be much more. One of the biggest challenges I had writing, because I was a very critical reporter of Silicon Valley and the things it did that I thought were dangerous. And one of the biggest challenges to me is even when I was writing villains in fiction, you have to understand them. You have to understand what makes a person do these bad things. And it really forced me to develop an empathy for the characters. I think in fiction, you can't just write, this is a comic book evil person. They're doing evil because they're evil. People throw the book across the room. I just don't believe that person exists. Even if that person exists in real life and we all believe it, we don't believe it in fiction. And it forces you to think a bit more about your fellow humans and what. And as a result, though, when you get it right on the page, readers are also in that thing of going, I understand why so many people believe this versus this. And I understand what would drive them to make these bad decisions. And it allows you to challenge your own thoughts and prejudices and whatever else. There's a reason why if you talk to somebody and they're describing something they're unhappy about, they'll say, oh, it's like something out of George Orwell. It's like 1984. It's like Handmaid's Tale. It's like, Fahrenheit 451, or Michael Crichton, it's like something out of Jurassic Park. It's very rare that people will say it's like something out of that nonfiction book written by a New York Times journalist, or a Wall Street Journal journalist. What people say, they point to fiction. They say it's like something out of Michael Crichton. It's like something out of George Orwell, and not George Orwell's journalism. It's so powerful and how it gets people to think deeply about the world that we want to live in. It's really remarkable. But it is, as you say, it's a real, trust question as well. You've got to. I've made sure that I had people who know about this stuff read this to say, I'm not saying, is this happening? I'm saying, could this happen in the way I'm described? And I made sure that theoretically, there is nothing in here that is fantasy. There's no magic in here. This is a book about actual science and actual people doing how they really are.
That's actually more terrifying.
I'm sorry to report. Exactly. Exactly. It's like Michael Crichton. It's like Jurassic Park could actually happen. And you're like, I preferred it when it couldn't.
Yes, exactly. That makes it actually scarier that it could happen that way.
Exactly.
But when you, like we were talking about, when you think about the way people are interacting with AI today already, and okay, I've got my AI and I'm like, ChatGPT is terrible. Gemini is scary because it's so good. But it's still bad, but it's good. It's better. And so, you've got these striations and stuff. And so
No, it's very, and this is the thing: is technology is really good and cool, and this is what a lot of powerful tech people would have you believe is that if you are critical of this stuff as it currently is, then you are anti-tech somehow. You're a Luddite, and it's like, no, no, no. I love technology. Technology is super cool. You and I are talking remotely in different states in real time. So cool. It's so cool. ChatGPT is really cool as a technology. The problem with it is the humans who are driving it. And it's those people who are making the decisions, often forcing the technology to do things that the technology wouldn't naturally do because they are human and they have their own views. It's the people that scare me. The technology doesn't scare me at all. Technology, I think the technology is actually amazing. I just am scared of the people who are using it to do bad things. And I don't think we have the best people running some of these companies who are looking out for their fellow humans. And perhaps it's not a coincidence that most of them don't read fiction.
Yes. Well, which is where the empathy comes in. Exactly.
If they read more fiction, I'm a strong believer. If people in Silicon Valley read more novels, we wouldn't be in this mess.
Well, and it's interesting because you do hit just a little bit of the sustainability, environmental issue, very little, but you highlight it, just like the immense amount of water that's being consumed by AI. And we don't talk about that enough. Like even just when people are doing those cute little, this is my superhero that AI generated. And I'm like, I didn't do it. I thought it was cool, but I'm like, I didn't do it because I'm like, that's little image is using up so much water, and I'm like, I just don't need it.
No,
I need it for other stuff. Like when my editor's not getting a good cover idea and I want to use Copilot to in 2 seconds go, this is a better idea. And then they go, oh, and then they create one. Then I'm like, now we've got the idea for the book.
No, we all of us, I think, because everything feels virtual, it's just pixels on a screen. I think a lot of us just think of the internet as something that doesn't exist in physical form. And if you ask people in states where there are data centers, they will tell you, no, it is a very real thing. And it consumes massive amounts of energy, massive amounts of water, massive amounts of every natural resource. And for what? Exactly. You see commercials on TV or in, flyers that come through the door from charities saying, there are people who don't have access to clean water. If they could just get sort of, how many gallons of water a day, their family would survive. Meanwhile, that image you just talked about, that might be 50 gallons of water for you to generate a fun joke. Like the amount of cooling and then energy as well. There are places where they can't get basic power to run hospitals, and meanwhile we are using insane amounts of power to do funny little things that we don't even think about. And the biggest lie that the technology companies tell is that everything's virtual, as if there aren't these physical footprints. So I wanted to include the water because it's a lot. It's more than I think most of us could comprehend how much.
But I know I understand like this much. I know I don't get it, but I'm trying, because I'm trying to think of, because I also teach business ethics. And so I'm trying to wrap my head around it so I can help my students think about some of those implications, even just from the business side of, okay, how do we deal with data? How do we deal with AI policies and use policies? And just inputting customer data into AI is a huge security breach. Huge. Especially when the training models are like, we get to take everything. I'm like, you can't do that. It's a huge accounting violation and legal violations and all of this. And that doesn't even get into the sustainability.
No, it's very, very dangerous, and not least because most of the people, even at the top levels of AI companies, don't really understand how the data is being they understand the basics of how AI works, but one thing it's not, it's intelligent. It's just it's algorithms and autocorrect, but they don't understand how that data might end up. They'll say, oh well, we'll never share your data. It's like, but does the AI know that? Does the AI agree with that? Because if you're training it on private documents, somebody's tax documents or somebody's, personal photos or whatever it is, you're training it all on this stuff. And then that thing is generating over here original material. Suddenly somebody's social security number shows up in a novel, because it was just in there and it didn't really, and the AI has kind of forgotten that was sensitive data. It's just numbers. It's really, there's such an ethical gap, and the faster it moves, the less ethical it is. It's very, very troubling. But these are human things.
Yeah.
It's humans who decide to feed it with this stuff. Humans could easily say, okay, we're going to feed it with, public domain data. We're going to get permission. We're going to do all this stuff. We're going to not put anything in there that we wouldn't want to see on a billboard in Times Square. So no personal data goes in here, no personal photos. But they don't do that. They say, yeah, we want it all.
We're going to just keep scraping the internet.
And that's people. The computers aren't doing that. That's people doing that. And it's not anti-technology to be worried about the human decisions going into this stuff. And they would like you to think it is, because then that way you can call somebody a Luddite. You can say, oh, you don't get it. You're back. And not to go, I realize I'm giving long answers, not to trivialize it, not to go too far down a rabbit hole, but there was something really fascinated me the other day that I saw, which was a study, I think it was done in the UK, of teens and young adults. And they basically surveyed them and said, would you prefer it if social media and the internet generally, if it went away for everybody? So nobody has it. Not like some have it, some don't. It just didn't exist. And there was something ridiculous, like 46% of people, young people questioned, said, yes, I'd rather it was never invented. Obviously, if I can't stop using it because all my friends use it, I know, but if it had never existed, 46% of people said they'd be better off. And I thought, I can't remember a time when a new cool thing, there was always something that was going to destroy the world, right? It was a rock and roll music, a video games. There's always something that the adults are going, oh, this is going to destroy everything. And the kids were going, shut up, it's fine.
Yeah.
Every generation. This is the first time I can think of where the younger people who are using it the most are going, I hate this. Please, I wish this had never been invented. I'm stuck with it because everyone's doing it. And it's the adults, the old, the people who run the things going, no, have more of this. It's really
fascinating.
Troubling that it's the first time when you're not a Luddite, you're not backwards or too old or whatever else. If you're the people using it, the youngest people who understand it the best are the ones saying, I just wish it had never been invented. Not all of them, but enough of them that's telling. This is not about not understanding it.
That's fascinating.
Isn't it?
That's very fascinating. So, okay, a couple of real quick questions as we wrap up.
Let's do it.
Okay, so you also own a bookstore.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best book you've read so far this year that's not in like AI tech space?
Ooh, that's a great question. Richard Osman's We Solve Murders. He did
I keep seeing it, but I haven't picked it up yet.
So he did the Thursday Murder Club. This is a controversial thing. He did the Thursday Murder Club. I did not enjoy those books. I'm too British. I'm American now, but I was, grew up in Britain. And they seem to twee. I did not care for that series, even though it was a massive bestseller. This is the first book in a new series about this group of people who solve murders. It is fantastic. I wasn't a Richard Osman fan. I read this book. I'm converted. There's no AI in it as far as I can remember. It's brilliant. So that's my one. It's great. It's fun for the family. It's just a great read. That one.
Okay, awesome. It has now moved to the top of my to be read pile because I keep seeing it, but I have such a big to be read pile that I hadn't picked it up yet. Yeah. When you're writing, I think I know the answer to this because you are British first. Coffee or tea?
You don't know the answer because coffee. Yes. When I'm writing, it's coffee. When I'm socializing, when I'm talking to them, it's tea. I'm a tea person socially, but when it's work, I need that caffeine. I need and American coffee. That's one of the many reasons I chose to become an American is I'm a coffee person. Yeah, coffee.
So when you're drinking tea, is it like Earl Grey, English breakfast?
It's what we call in the UK builder's tea. It's like supermarket brand tea.
Yeah.
Tetley or Taifu or one of those brands. I get them shipped over, right? Sometimes I find them in the supermarket. Just very strong
tea.
You'd give a contractor if they were building a shelf. Okay, that builder's tea.
Cream and sugar or just black?
Milk. Never black for me. I can't do it. Same with coffee. I just need a little bit of milk and I'm happy.
Yeah, because I always do the tea I do it the British way with cream and a little bit of sugar.
Quite right.
Okay, sweet or salty?
Sweet, very, always.
Lots of sweet.
Very sweet. I quit drinking 20 years ago. I don't drink alcohol at all, but I made up for it with sugar from candy. I'm a jelly bean freak. I'm like Ronald Reagan with the bowl on his desk. Just I
love it.
Yep.
And what do you read for fun?
Oh gosh, I read everything because I run a bookstore, but for fun, murder mysteries, Golden Age, Agatha Christie, anything, impossible crimes are And my most, and not even guilty pleasure, my most pleasurable pleasure is impossible crimes, locked room mysteries, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Those are so fun.
I
Last year I did study abroad in London, and we went to Bath with all the bookstores. Loved Bath with all the bookstores.
Oh yeah.
And we came back with the book. It's like this thick, and it's Agatha Christie's journals.
Oh
like
yes.
Where she took her notes and stuff.
Her hidden notebooks or secret.
Oh my gosh, it was so fun. And so then I went back on an Agatha Christie kick where I've been reading, because I read a bunch of those when I was a young teen. And now to go back through them again, I'm like, oh, they're so fun. They're
so good. And she's such a good writer. Like people say, oh, well, you know, they're fun, they're good plots, but she's not a good writer. She's a brilliant writer. Yeah. She's very funny. And her plots, yes, and you read the journals. I love because she writes those notes to herself. She's like, no, that doesn't work. Stupid. Like and then there's a shopping list. And then she's just,
it's so funny.
I love her. I love her so much. And I love those books, those notebooks for the same reasons you do. They're so fun.
Yeah, it was such a fun find, and I've enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
Now, as we wrap up, where can readers learn more about you and your book?
They can go to paulbradleycarr.com. And, you know, obviously the books are where all books are sold, but paulbradleycarr.com has all the info. And of course, if they happen to come to Palm Springs, this is the name of the shop, the best bookstore in Palm Springs. We're the only bookstore in Palm Springs. Come visit us there, and we'll talk about Agatha Christie. But yeah, paulbradleycarr.com if they can't make it to Palm Springs.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for joining me today, Paul. This has been so much fun.